Hey y'all, so I wanted to profile the JOCO deck the JOCO deck that I took to locals last week. I did want to upload this like sooner, but I just didn't really get the opportunity to because of just work, life in general. But let's get into it. I'm gonna start off the ride line. I'm gonna go over each card in the ride line because most people don't know what the lesser, like if it's not Yo Asakura, most people aren't going to know what the other Shaman King decks do. So I'm just going to go over each and every card as quickly as I possibly can. So what the grade 1 does is it's your generic Shaman King grade 1 of the ride line, whereas when you ride it, it searches for your the double rare version of that specific shaman spirit. So in this case, JOCO's spirit is Jagger Mick, so it searches the double rare version of Jagger Mick. And then what the grade 2 version does is when it's, I believe it needs to be boosted by Jagger Mick, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, when it's boosted by Jagger Mick, your opponent reveals a card from their hand, and then you could choose up to one card from your hand, reveal it, and if both cards are the same grade, you get to draw a card, and this unit gets minus 5k until the end of that battle. It's a very weird skill because it decreases it still will hit if they didn't get a trigger, but it's a very weird skill to like to give itself minus 5 versus like trying to minus 5 your opponent, where like I think it was probably like too good. But it's a free draw essentially, unless you're against like a grade 4 deck, but more often than not you're able to get the draw. And then we have Wind of Laughter, JOCO. What this JOCO does is his Oversoul ability is an act. You place a Mick into the soul, your opponent can't intercept for the turn. So that's like one of JOCO's mechanics, that it just stops intercepting, which is actually like really busted. Like low-key really busted, especially considering how aggressive this deck is. But it stops your opponent from intercepting for the turn, and then all their grade 3 or greater units get minus 5 until the end of turn. That's his Oversoul ability. And then his second ability is Act on Vanguard. If he is an Oversoul at the end of battle, Counterblast 2, minus 2 drive checks, and restand him. And this ability is not once per turn. So you could if you have 4 open CB, you can Counterblast 2 again, minus it by 2 more drive checks. You weren't drive checking anyway, so his drive checks will still remain at 0, and he'll be attacking again. So it's like, it's a multi-attack deck to where it's like it restands the Vanguard, but you don't get additional drive checks out of it. So it's kind of like a restanding it's like a restanding Vanguard on the rearguard circle. But it's actually like surprisingly like stronger than I thought. I don't think it's like quite like top tier as like Yo, but I think it's like strong enough to where it's like it can just kind of like aggress you and catch you off guard. But going on to the JOCO cards, we do max out on copies of the JOCO Personarai. There's really not much to say there. And then 4 copies of the double rare Mick to go with the grade 3 JOCO. What the double rare Mick does is when you put him into Soul for Oversoul, he lets you Soul Charge 1 card. This deck uses a lot of Soul. You Soul Charge 1 card, and if that was a trigger, give your Vanguard plus 5,000 until the end of turn. So it's just a really good and solid ability. But on to the rest of the JOCO cards. We play 4 of the grade 2, becoming the world's top comedian JOCO. What this JOCO does is when you Soul Blast 2, and you're able to call out this version of Mick, the double rare Mick. You're able to call it in the same column as this unit. But more importantly, just like his grade 3 counterpart, on place, the first thing that happens is it stops your opponent from intercepting. So whether you call the Mick or not, your opponent can't intercept for that turn. And then obviously it calls out the Mick, and then what the rare Mick does is when it boosts any JOCO unit, the grade 3 or the grade 2, it gives it plus 5 instead of a plus 2 on boost, and your opponent must reveal 3 cards from their hand at the beginning of that battle. And then, they reveal 3 and then they guard, which usually they reveal what they drove check, or they reveal cards like you already knew, or they're revealing cards that they're gonna guard with. But it's still like a really good card in terms of it just gives you like free information in terms of, especially like in the early games, this card can just like really help you like establish what type of hand your opponent has. Do they have all pieces? Do they have all guard? And like how you should approach winning the game from there. But on to the rest of the deck. I play 4 copies of Law of the Jungle Horo. Now, what Law of the Jungle Horo does is, if you have a JOCO or Tower and Vanguard, he gets plus 10 on the Guardian Circle. And then his second ability is, if he attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, he gets plus 5 until the end of that battle. So it's just really good defensive / offensive card. Helps you hit those key numbers to whereas you're minusing your opponent's Vanguard, so they're more often than not going down to 8. So you need to hit those like key number thresholds in intervals of 8, which is normally 23, 28, 33, and you know, so on and so on. And then, you know, this goes on with the other changes that I have made to the deck. You will notice that this is a little bit different than what I was playing. That's because I realized the flaws, and then I just teched out the deck accordingly. I play 3 copies of Peak of Acidics Mikihiza. What Mikihiza does is, he has an act ability of Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your Shaman, and it gets plus 2k until the end of the turn. But if you oversold this turn, it gets plus 5 instead of plus 2. So this is just like a really good / key card to like buff up your Vanguard. Like, you know, it's just like the double rare Mick, to whereas like you have to rely on a trigger, to whereas all you need for Mikihiza is a Soul Blast, and you're able to pump up your Vanguard by 5k, which would make him that, you know, that key number of 18, 23, 28, and you know, etc. And then I play two of the grade 2 triple rare Jean. What Jean, I was originally playing 4 of this card, but I felt like I just keep seeing her like too early, too often, to where it's like I do need the counter charge, but like it just felt more often than not like I have to use this card now and get my good out of her now before I even have the chance to counter charge with her. But her ability is, when placed on rearguard circle, Soul Blast 3, draw a card, counter charge a card. So very simple, very good card. I did bump it down to 2, but that's more often than not to where it's like this kind of goes in with the other card that I play. So it's this is a grade 1 order card. It's called No Matter What, and what No Matter What does is, if I'm at 5 damage, is it 5 damage? Yeah, 5 or more damage. If I'm at 5 or more damage, if the damage count ever increases in Vanguard, if I'm at 5 or more damage, it lets me counter charge 2. So this is a card that just lets me like wholeheartedly extend on my turn 3, to whereas I'll let my opponent rush me and aggress me to like 4 damage. I'll restand my Vanguard I'll restand my Vanguard twice and not get punished, to whereas I'm able to just pull off my Vanguard restand next turn, and more often than not that's still able to like just get like catch me the game right there. But Jean is in the deck to whereas like if they try to like play around this card in like games 2 and 3, like you still have Jean, so you'll be able to flip up a counterblast. More often than not, you'll have 1 face up counterblast, so you're still able to get off 1 restand. But I was playing No Matter What at 1, and like I just kept seeing it, so I was like, damn, like this is really good. And then I didn't see it, so I was like, oh, I gotta bump it up. So that is the main deck. Going on to the rest of the deck, like pretty standard. 4 DPGs, really nothing much to talk about there. One of the Shaman King Overtrigger. I'm going to explain it for those who might not know Shaman King that well. What the Shaman King Overtrigger does is that it's an order trigger, so it doesn't have any shield value. Its effect is, if you oversold for the turn, it's basically a Regeki / board wipe on your opponent's field. So it just like retires all your opponent's rear guards, non-targeting removal. And if you check it, its ability is, of course, it's going to give a unit the plus 100 million power, and its additional effect is it deals your opponent a damage. No matter the damage count, no matter if the attack hit or not, it's going to deal your opponent a damage before your attack resolves. So that's the ability of the Shaman King Overtrigger. It's obviously very good. So for the rest of the triggers, I play 3 of the effect draws, 4 of the effect crits. Believe it or not, these come in very clutch in grind game scenarios, to whereas you ran out of your shamans because spirits have no critical, so they can't hit your opponent's Vanguard for damage. They can hit, but they can't hit your opponent's Vanguard for damage. So believe it or not, these effect triggers come in clutch in like grind game scenarios or like early game rush scenarios, to whereas it's just an extra body that's able to hit your opponent for a point of damage. So it's really crucial to play these, even though they don't give you the extra spirit names. But speaking of spirit names, we play 4 of the Jaggermick critical, and then we play 4 of the Jaggermick heal. This just adds to your extra Jaggermick names, because the grade 3 doesn't specify whether or not you need to soul a grade 1 Jaggermick or a Jaggermick specifically by name. It's any Jaggermick in general, so these just help with extra names to make sure that you're able to oversoul every turn consistently. But I think this is like really like quite a fun rogue pick to play. Not obviously as strong as Yo or other the Shaman King decks, but I do think it is a force to be reckoned with. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. I will be posting more videos about Shaman King in the future. I'm actually like low-key working on a Duel deck right now, even though like the support hasn't come out yet. I'm just, you know, I'm a Dark States fiend. You know how we do here, baby. All right, later.